I've always been a fan of survival horror games, ever since I was a kid. I grew up playing games like Silent Hill and Alone in the Dark. Hell, I've still got my copy of Dino Crisis on PS1. But the thing is, when you wanted zombies, there was only really one place you could go, and that was Resident Evil. Now, I know that over the years they've had their ups and downs in terms of games in the series, but to me, 4 was the best one in recent years, but overall, 2. Resident Evil 2 will always have a soft spot in my heart. But this isn't about that. This isn't even about their most recent entry into the franchise. No. This is about the prequel to that. Resident Evil Revelations. I've been waiting for a chance to play this. Thank you, Review Fridays. So this is originally a 3DS game that's been ported onto consoles and PC with updated visuals and character models and so on and so forth. You've heard it all before, yada yada yada. Let's move on. So the story isn't really that different from any Resident Evil game. You've got some bioweapon that's, going to be unleashed upon the world by some terrorist organisation or other, corporation, insert evil name here. But is it really the corporation, terrorist group, or other such entity that's really pulling the strings? You decide, or play through the game. Either or! But my problem with the story is that there's a fairly important character that's introduced halfway through the game. When you have to wait halfway through the story to introduce a fairly important character, you're not doing something right in your storytelling there. So the gameplay is really kind of what you would expect from any recent Resident Evil game. You've got an over-the-shoulder camera view, and you can aim with one button and fire your weapon with the other. Okay? Pretty standard stuff. But they've introduced a new feature where you can scan enemies and the environment to see if there are any hidden items nearby. Obviously, this sounds quite good in theory. When you scan enemies and get to 100% of your whatever completion rate, yeah, that constantly refills, you get a healing item. Quite handy. But when you're scanning for hidden items, you don't really want to be walking down a corridor and have to pull out the scanner about 50 times, only to find there's nothing in that corridor. Fantastic. And also, having to scan an enemy that will disappear after you kill it, before it kills you, kinda difficult to do. I've had more than one death that's been attributed to this. It ain't fun. But they have introduced something called raid mode. Now this is something that I really enjoy. As you play through the campaign, you unlock more levels for this raid mode, which has a number of different characters with different skills and different preferences for weapons. You can buy weapons in a store using these points that you earn, and change your loadouts and stuff and customize your guns. Quite cool. But the setup is you basically move from level to level, kill enemies or fulfill objective A, move on to objective B, yada yada yada. But you level up and stuff, and your enemies have levels too, and you can get enemies with special perks like they're super fast, or they are giant, or they have massive defense. It's pretty cool, and you actually see your damage numbers pop up when you shoot enemies. I kind of like that. Yeah, that's cool. I would love to meet the people or person responsible for designing the ambient sounds in this game, because they have done a stand-up job. Even the composition of the score is phenomenal. It really fits. It's so atmospheric, it builds tension where appropriate. It's awesome. However, as with any Resident Evil game, I will have my gripes about the voice acting. Yeah, this old chestnut. Now, while the lip flaps have been synced up very well, I've got to admit that, I'm yet to experience a scene in a Resident Evil game where the dialogue between two characters wasn't cheesy. Sorry, wait, no, I take that back. 1 or 2 moments in Resident Evil 6 between Sherry and Wesker Jr. But that's about it. I was cringing at certain moments in the game because of the dialogue. And when they point the obvious out. So now I've got to talk about the graphics. With this being a port of a 3DS game, that probably shouldn't take too long. Obviously the new and updated character models and visuals do look quite impressive. There are certain areas and environments in the game where you can tell not a whole lot of detail has been put into updating them. So they do sort of flag behind a little bit when you've got these impressive character models and then just bland background environment. All in all, this isn't the worst entry in the series that I've ever experienced. Obviously it's not right up there at the top, but it ain't bad. I mean, the raid mode really saved the game for me because it meant that I could get a lot of replay value from it. And you can choose to replay the levels in the campaign, but really once you've experienced the story, there's not a whole cause for you to do that, unless you want to try and just get the max grades that you can. It's entirely optional, really. But it was quite a fun experience, and it did provide some tense and chilling moments, even though the story didn't really captivate me all that well, and I sort of saw the end coming a mile off, really. But you know, that's neither here nor there, and I will always have my gripes about the lip syncing, but all in all the sound was quite impressive. So I'm going to give this game a 6 out of 10. I mean, obviously agree with me if you want, or if you disagree, please let me know. If you haven't experienced the game yet and you'd like to check it out, obviously if you decide to, let me know what you thought, because I'd be very interested in hearing. So anyway, that's all from me for now. I really hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, please leave a like, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, hit that subscribe button right now. I'm going to get to work on recording my next review, and yeah, I hope you guys are going to enjoy that one. Spoilers, it's the sequel!